Welcome back to Sports Time HQ. I am your host, Fernando. Joining with me today is my great co-host, Keith. Keith, it's been a rough week for both of us.
Yeah, can we just move on?
Well,
Let's
that's
just
the end
get
of the
next
show.
week.
Both our teams
Yeah.
lose. No show.
Exactly. Let's just move on from the introductions and let's just go to the next segment because it was rough for both of our teams this week.
Yeah, your Seahawks back-to-back losses. Can't really say back-to-back losses for my guy. I mean, my team just sucks. Just a tank bowl. It's a tank bowl. That's all it is.
A loss with two QBs. That's what it was. You had two QBs out there and you still lost.
Honestly, I'm ready to put Malik Cunningham in because they talk so highly about him, but they haven't started him. So I'm ready to start. I'm ready to see what he can do.
I mean, anybody else is worth a shot in New England right now. I mean, Sappy throws bad interceptions. Mac throws awful ones. So anybody else, I mean, see if one of the wide receivers or something that doesn't get a game can play quarterback because he's better, I'm sure.
Honestly, I mean, you know you're trying to lose when you throw an interception right to a giant. And then you also know you're shanking these kicks. It's like a extra point type of kick. You can't be missing those.
It was just terrible all around. It's like no better on Thursday night for Seattle leader. I mean, I knew we'd get beat, but I mean, we weren't competitive whatsoever. Gino was terrible, offensive line terrible, and yeah, it's just all terrible. And we got the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football, and it's not going to be any better. So the Seahawks season's kind of going down the toilet, just kind of the way the whole of the Patriots season is. So yeah, it's not great for both of us.
The toilet bowl. Hey, you
Exactly.
think those teams bought a trophy on trophysmack.com/sportstimeHQ? You think they use that?
I think they will be buying one if they haven't, but
the toilet bowl trophy. But let's get into our injuries. Not really many injuries. I don't know if you saw our notes, but it's only been really 3 injuries, and they could be relevant depending on how deep your leagues are. One very relevant, obviously, Chris Olave, concussion protocol. Demario Douglas, another one on concussion protocol. And then Rashid Shaheed, day-to-day with a thigh injury. Big one here is Chris Olave. I think he should be back, though. I don't see him missing time. Demario Douglas, same thing. And then Shaheed, he's day-to-day currently. Just monitor him. But if he's out, I mean, the wide receiver core in New Orleans is going to get thinner and thinner if that is the case.
Yeah, the one thing I would say about the concussions is a lot of players have been missing 1 week, with the concussions this year because they're taking it a bit more serious. So might miss Olave for a week. Hopefully not. Hopefully, goes through the process there and clears, but I think you might miss him for a week. Just kind of that's the way it's been going so far.
Well, if Olave is out, Rashid Shaheed should be the guy that should be picked up on all the waivers and started because he will be the wide receiver 1 there. Another one to look at is A.T. Perry. I don't know if you really know much about him, but he's the next man in the depth chart. And I think the third man, and I mean,
it is.
Oh no,
I know who it is.
Lynn Bowden Jr. Let's bring him back. I can't believe it.
Your guy for 2 years ago is back in the fold, except he was with Miami then.
He's back in the fold, and then he went to New England. Now he's in New Orleans. He could get a chance. There's a chance, Keith. He could be fantasy relevant for 1 week.
There's a chance he's going to be your guy again for the rest of the season. Is that what you're saying?
That's it. I'm picking him up.
He's definitely
stay on the waivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he will stay on the waivers for me. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think overall Olave is the big one that would be a tough miss if he has to miss time because Keith, it's the end of fantasy football regular season pretty much. Week 13, 14, maybe 15 for some folks.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting into the nitty-gritty kind of end of it now, and if you need to make a push for playoffs, losing a player like Olave is not ideal. He did have a good fantasy day before he went off. I think he came up with 80 fantasy points before going out, which was good. But yeah, if you're going to miss him for a week, it's not ideal scenario going into the last couple of weeks of fantasy.
But you know who is back? Mr. Justin Jefferson.
Is he back tonight?
No, he's not back tonight. But next week he will be.
Oh, okay. He's back, yeah.
Because his window, this is the last game he can miss before he has to officially be activated from the IR.
Okay, yeah. His 21 days are coming up. So
yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe perfect timing for guys making a playoff push, or if
Last
you
push.
that's it, or you're already in the playoffs and you're getting your wide receiver one back. I mean, things look good. It's the only thing is can he get a connection with Dobbs? Because Dobbs is either kind of he runs the ball or he throws deep. He doesn't kind of throw them 10, 15 yard passes so far, what we've seen anyways. So that's where he might lose out. But yeah, it's definitely obviously good for your fantasy team if JJ is back.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the production because obviously Jordan Addison's been productive, and then KJ Osborne as well here and there, and then you have the running back committee with Madison, Ty Chandler. Ty Chandler getting more of it, but it's going to be curious because now you add Justin Jefferson. What is he going to do? I mean, Keith, there's no question about it that you have to start Justin Jefferson if he's active.
Oh,
Next
of
week.
course. If he's active, you're starting him. I mean, you're expecting him to get at least like 15 points. I would suspect anyways. But yeah, you're definitely starting him. You can't leave him on the bench and then he goes off and gets 20, 25 points and you're kind of going like, well, I look dumb now after leaving him on the bench. So if he's fit and healthy, he's in your starting lineup.
You know, I looked dumb this weekend because you know what I did? You know what I did this weekend? You wouldn't believe it. I benched Jonathan Taylor.
For who?
I mean,
Zach
my
Moss?
running backs don't work. No. Imagine. Breece Hall and Travis Etienne.
Okay, that's not bad, but Breece Hall's getting away with it because he's getting the catches. He's not. I think he's averaging like 2.7
There's
on the
two
ground
flexes.
though.
Yeah, he sucks.
Oh, okay.
He sucks. He's actually a terrible 1.1 dynasty for some. He's terrible. But two flexes. I started Chris Olave and Shaheed. Shaheed obviously went down, so he only scored 2.9 points. But I not only benched Najee Harris I benched both Najee Harris and Jonathan Taylor.
Oh man, that sucks. Yeah, Harris is starting to get better, and obviously with this offensive coordinator change, I think that's going to be good for them. I think Jonathan Taylor, I think you just have to put in and just roll with it from now on. I mean, the problem with Etienne is all of a sudden Lawrence is running the ball at the goal line and taking touchdowns away from him. I mean, I think
when we said he can be dropped, the week we said he could be dropped, he starts to blow up.
Of course, I think he got like one. I think he ran in for one this week, and then last week he ran in for two, and he's vulturing the work from Etienne. So that's where that's going. Yeah, like I was saying, Breece Hall, I think he's averaging like 2.7 a carry on the ground. It's not good, but he's just making up for it because he's getting catches through the air. So yeah, it's not great, but yeah, you better put Jonathan Taylor back in and play out that season with him in there, and then I'd even say maybe throw in Najee in a flex.
Yeah, and the team obviously I had to face this week was the team that had Kyron Williams and who was the other guy? Ramondre Stevenson.
Oh, great. Guy goes off for like.
But don't worry.
What? You still gonna win?
They were both benched. Benched. So I ended up winning somehow, in some way.
You both messed up big time, and you're still gonna get out with the win, so that's okay then for you. That's good.
Yeah, and obviously we'll talk more dynasty based in the offseason with Breece Hall especially. But before we get into our playoff picture, kind of recapping the playoff picture right now, should Breece Hall be a hold for fantasy teams in dynasty, or should you be selling high and getting as much as you can for him right now?
I'd hold based on hope that things are going to be a lot better next year, unless somebody's going to offer you something you can't refuse. Then I'm holding. I mean, I don't know what would you say his value is? Like a first round pick, maybe, and that's it.
Two firsts.
It's probably people are probably looking for two
or maybe like a first and second.
Yeah, people are probably look for two firsts because of the scarcity at the position. You know what I mean? There's not many really good top running backs, and that's why. But like he hasn't proved anything this season. I get they're bad. I get they have quarterback issues, but he still hasn't exactly. He's good for these like one long bursts a game, and then you don't really see much after that. So I would hold unless somebody's willing to like that. If someone offers me two firsts, I definitely think about it. But other than that, yeah, I'm hoping things are a lot better next year. Either you get Rodgers or you're definitely going to get some sort of quarterback upgrade, and hope he's way better for your team then.
Yeah, I think I might try to trade him in the offseason. I'm going to be honest. Try and get as much as I can for him. Maybe try and get Marvin Harrison.
you could definitely dangle the carrot out there and take offers and see what you get. I just don't know
Yeah.
whether somebody's going to come running in looking with like either a top player and a first or two first, or I don't even know if I consider a first and a second because it depends what that first whereabouts that first round pick will
Where,
be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be curious to see. But obviously both our teams lost. One of them is out of the playoff runnings anyways. One is still in the playoffs. And actually, is your Seahawks in? You guys are, right? 7? Yeah,
We
okay, 7. Whew, had me
won the
scared
wild
there.
card. Yeah.
So let's just quickly kind of go through the AFC first. Actually, no, I don't want to go through it. Yeah, let's go through the AFC. So the Ravens, Chiefs, Jaguars, Dolphins, they're the ones that currently sit on top of their divisions. Really good teams. Ravens, obviously, they look really good. And I'm sure they're very happy that they paid Lamar Jackson in the offseason. Steelers, Browns, Colts, those are the wild card teams, Keith. And I don't know about you, but these wild card teams don't really look powerful. Unless we're
Just
actually
say they
seeing
suck, Fernando. Just say they suck.
yeah, unless we're seeing the true Steelers after firing Matt Canada, I don't think these teams look good.
Steelers, I mean, Mike Tomlin just works his magic all the freaking time, even with a bad team. Like,
He's 2 wins away from having a winning season again.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, he's like, let's be honest, firing the offensive coordinator is gonna, I think, make them better. So they're probably gonna stay in there. The Browns, I like the Browns, except they've got no real quarterback. I mean, and now Myles Garrett got banged up, but I think he's going to be okay. But like the Browns have a great defense. They've like some great weapons on offense, but they've got nobody to throw the ball. I mean, that's going to be their, like Achilles heel. And the Colts, I mean, Gardner Minshew is so hot and cold, but he worked magic last week. Their defense is not good enough. There's like a big gaping hole in the secondary there. It's just terrible. They released Shaq Leonard last week as well. I mean, they're not going to be good enough. I think they could fall out. I'd actually right now looking at that, the Broncos are the most formed team. They're gonna sneak in there right now.
Looking at the bubble right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I like the Texans. Like we've talked about the Texans. I just think that it's a year too soon. The Bills just are screwing up everything right now. The Bengals are out of it. They've got no quarterback. So I like the Broncos right now.
What about the Chargers? What about the Chargers sitting at 4-7?
No, they can't get it done. I mean, any game that goes down to the wire, they just know how to lose. It's kind of like what the Bills are doing right now. Any game that goes down to the wire, the Bills come out on the wrong end of the game. So yeah, I'm looking at that going, I'd like the Texans to get in, don't get me wrong, but I think the informed team that stands out to me is the Broncos to sneak in there.
Yeah, and of course, we'll play the sad violin for Katie for the Bengals.
Yeah, you can play that sad violin. I mean, I thought they might beat the Steelers the weekend, and it was going well for a short period of time, but it's the season's over now. The Bengals are done, and it's get back to next season for them, get healthy, Joe Burrow, and go again. But their Super Bowl window is starting to close, so they need to get it going next year.
Yeah, and I personally, in my opinion, I think the 3 teams that we're looking at right now, the Texans, Broncos, Bills, those are the 3 teams that realistically have the best chance out of any other team in the AFC that can make the playoffs. And I think realistically, I think you say the Texans are a year too soon. I think they're just doing something that no rookie quarterback really has ever done and taking a team to the playoffs, because I realistically thought that Bryce Young was going to be able to take the Panthers because of how weak that division is. But obviously that team is a whole separate day. But the Texans, they look good. And obviously they should have made that field goal. That field goal should have been made. Should have went to overtime, and there could have been a chance the Texans would have won the game against the Jaguars. But whether or not the case is, they're tied. Their record is tied with the Colts. So it's a division. There's 2 division teams, and those 2 are going to decide whether or not they're going to make playoffs. And I think the Texans have the best chance, and I think the Broncos could shock the world because they're on a 5-game winning streak now.
Yep.
After going 1-5.
Yeah, they've got it going there. I mean, I don't disagree with your statement on the Texans. I really like the Texans. like I said before, I just think it's a year too soon. Poor Amendola, the kicker, they waived him today straight
Yep.
after missing. Poor dude. Oh well,
Yep.
things happen. But like yeah, if he gets that kick, I think they go on and win in overtime. But I just think the Broncos have so much momentum right now, and that their defense looks a hell of a lot better. And Russ, which we'll talk about in a bit, looks a hell of a lot better. So I just think they're sneaky and they're getting good at the right time.
So Broncos Texans, they face off next week.
Yeah.
Who do you think will win that game?
Who do I want? I want the Texans. Who do I think? The Broncos. It's kind of a head and heart situation. My heart say like I'd like the Texans to win, but my head thinks the Broncos will win.
Okay. I think the Texans win that game.
I thought Texans were going to beat the Jags. Like I really thought they'd beat the Jags the weekend as well. I mean, there's so much to like about their offense. I mean, Stroud and all the young receivers. There's a lot to like about them. He's keeping them in games because their defense is improved from previous years, but still not that good. He's keeping them in games. He's keeping them up there, and he's bringing games down to the wire, which is what you want. You want the ball in his hands to try and win the game. Just that how many times can you keep doing that every week? You know what I mean? Before something cracks. He's so good. You got to give. The defense got to step up so it allows Stroud to give them like a 2 touchdown cushion. So the ball's not in his hands every single time coming down to the end of the game. But yeah, I think this Broncos defense has just stepped up in the last few weeks, and I think they'll give him more trouble than he's had in recent weeks.
I think every AFC team is going to have a record with at least 10 wins. I think you realistically have to have 10 wins to make the playoffs in the AFC this season.
Oh yeah, I think you do all right. I mean, it's just the team's fighting to get into it. I don't think like the Bills probably won't get that. They might get to 9, but I don't know if they'll get 10. Texans, you think the Texans will get to 10?
I think so. I think I pretty like they could lose against. I think they could lose to the Broncos and still make it. I mean, you look at the rest of their schedule. It's an iffy one. I mean, if they lose to the Broncos, then they go on to face the Jets. Then they go on to face the Titans. Then they go on to face the Browns. Then they go on to face the Titans again. And then they face the Colts.
I mean, they're all winnable games, really, aren't they? You know what I mean? Especially when you've got a good offense like that.
That's what I'm saying. There's a chance. I think it's the Broncos and Texans that are going to sneak in. The Browns and Colts are going to get out. As much as I'd love to say that the Bills make it, I don't see the Bills making it.
I agree about the two that could fall out. Definitely the Browns and the Colts. I mean, the Browns are going to lose it if Myles Garrett's not 100% and they've got no quarterback. And the Colts are just not good enough. I mean, like Minshew's working his magic there some weeks he's not. It'd be good if both of them went in, Texans and Broncos. I think it'd make things very interesting because I'd rather watch the Texans and the Broncos play someone than the Browns or the Colts. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the Jets are out of the running.
Yeah, screw Jets.
Jets are 4-7. But let's go to the NFC. Quick on the Eagles. They're 10-1. 49ers 8-3. Lions 8-3. Those are obviously going to be division winners right now. That at the time being. Then you got the Falcons, who are 5-6 in the playoffs, who are currently leading the division in the NFC South. Horrendous. Then you got the Cowboys, Vikings, Seahawks in the wild card. I think the Cowboys are one of the best teams right now in the NFL. They've been putting a lot of high-scoring games, and they've been beating these teams. Personally, I think they're going to go up my rankings, but you look at the people that are on the bubble. The Packers, 5-6. The Rams, 5-6. The Saints, 5-6. The Buccaneers, 4-7. And then kind of the rest of the teams that really are pretty much eliminated, I think. I mean, I don't see the Giants wanting to get into the playoffs. Maybe they might try and still make it, but I don't really see it. But I think these are the 4 teams that can make the playoffs. And the reason why I say the Saints and Buccaneers still is because of the fact of that whole NFC South.
Yeah. I mean, the team that I think is on a downward spiral is the Lions. I mean, Jared Goff looks terrible the last couple of games. He got away with it against the Bears. He didn't get away with it against the Packers. I mean, I think they've won too many games. Probably, I don't think they'll let it slip. to say like the Packers
Really?
will get in and top the division. I don't think they'll let it slip. I think they've won enough games, but they're not playing good football all of a sudden, and their defense has gone very quiet. They're really struggling to get to the quarterback. And Goff looks terrible. Looks like a lot of what we seen when he was with the Rams, kind of the reason why they traded him away. So they need to get it going again. I mean, like I said, I think they'll be fine playoff wise, but I don't think they'll go much further unless they get it going. So it's been a bad couple of weeks for them. They need to sort it out. Like Seahawks, I don't think we'll make it. I mean, I can see how we'll hold. I can see how we'll hold on because we've got a couple of games in hand or whatever. But I mean, we lose to the Cowboys, then we play the Eagles. We lose to the Eagles. We've got the 49ers in there again. We could lose to them again. I mean, it's not looking good for the Seahawks. We could easily lose the next 3 games and be in serious trouble. I mean, and even if somehow they do make the playoffs, you're not exactly going in full of confidence, because every decent team you play beats you, and you beat the weaker teams. I mean, it's not exactly screaming Super Bowl champions. So yeah, not exactly confident with my Seahawks. The Vikings, it's all about what Dobbs can do. I mean, he's entertaining. It's good. It's all about what he can do now. And like we said, they're getting Jefferson back. So I don't know. Who do you think sneaking in? It's kind of easier to say that them 7 will stay the way it is rather than people sneaking in.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest one is the AFC South on who wins the division. And I don't see the Falcons winning the division. I think it's going to be either the Saints and Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers have the best chance because, one, if you look at the rest of their schedule, they got to face the Panthers twice. And you already know that both should be wins. Then they also face the Falcons, which they lost last time too, but it was by 3 points. So it was a 1-score game. You also look at their other losses. They lost to the Lions. It was 2-score game. That's fine. Eagles 2-score game. That's fine. Bills 1-score game. Texans 1-score game. And the Colts 1-score game. So they've had winnable games, and they just couldn't finish in the end. But then they go on to face the Packers and Jaguars, which those 2 could be losses. And then they have the Saints as well. So I think the Buccaneers can have right now 4 more wins that I can safely say that they could win because it's all division games.
Yeah.
And they could finish 8-7? That doesn't sound right. Why am I flunking?
Because you haven't thrown in a couple of losses, probably like 8-10 or 8-9.
Oh yeah, 8-9. So I think 8-9. I think that's the magic record to win the division. 8-9.
It's not a good record, but
no,
I get what you mean. I mean, it's just a bad division. Let's be honest. Yeah. And yeah, they could make a push, but other than that, kind of like all the top guys are safe. I mean, Eagles clearly already in. 49ers safe. I think, like I said, the Lions probably just done enough. Cowboys, playing the best, like you said. They're playing the best. The Falcons, like it's so crap. You know what I mean? That's like you think the Bucs go in there. I honestly couldn't call that. I think they all look terrible. I think Baker gives the Bucs the best chance, but I think they're terrible on defense then. I mean, like their games are like somebody goes and scores and Baker has to go launch like a 40-yard bomb to Mike Evans to keep up, and like their games are crazy. So I honestly, like, the Falcons are in there now, but like you said, it could be the Bucs or could end up being the Saints, but they all look terrible. So it's kind of like whatever with that division. Cowboys are looking the best right now, and the Vikings, like I said, it all depends what Josh Dobbs want to do with Jefferson going back. So yeah, I mean, I'd go with what's kind of there and hope the Seahawks get in at 7. But I mean, it's more of a hope than I think they will. I mean, and it's not even exciting if they get in because they're not going to beat anyone good.
There's a chance. So, there's a chance. You don't know.
There's a chance you obviously get in, but I mean, like actually go in there and beat a good team. I mean, unless it works
right now, if it ended, you guys would be facing the 49ers.
I don't need to face the 49ers for a third time, Fernando. Come on.
It's a third time. You can't lose every single time to them in one season, right? Couldn't get swept 3 times.
We've lost twice to the Rams this season. We're probably going to lose twice to the 49ers. And if we end up somehow seeing them again in the playoffs, we'll lose a third time. Trust me. So yeah, it's not going to be
Well,
good.
oh, that's the NFL playoff picture through week 12 before Monday night. Obviously, I'll show my team, obviously, down deep in the
Oh,
bowels
look who
of
they are.
the AFC.
Oh, look, they have one
Yeah.
more win than the Panthers. They're cool.
Yeah. I was rooting for the Panthers to beat the Titans, but it didn't work out. I actually thought the Panthers were going to beat the Titans, but it didn't work out.
So it's the Panthers and you guys for the Panthers obviously gave away their pick, but
For
like you
Drake
are.
May or Caleb Williams, if Caleb Williams wants to actually go to the Patriots, which I wouldn't want to if I was him. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he said he's not going to come out of college if he doesn't like the team or something like that, right? So
yeah, he's not. So
that's
we'll see what
Trevor Lawrence
happens.
did. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. We'll see if it also helps him in the long run. But once again, if you haven't done so, use code SportsTimeHQ on Underdog Fantasy. They'll match first deposit up to $100. And if you're looking to purchase a trophy on a ring or a bell on TrophySmack.com, use /SportsTimeHQ on it. And you can go get yourself a trophy for your championship fantasy rosters. Playoffs are coming up. Go get them for your teams, your league mates, whatever you want to do. Go get Keith the toilet bowl trophy for when he comes in last place.
No, go get the Patriots one.
Or get the Patriots one because they're terrible too. I could beat the Patriots if I was them. But let's get into our waiver wire teams, players for week 13, our quarterback situation. There was a team that we talked about that was so hot lately. And Keith, I think you have a player that you want to talk about from that team.
I do. So I'm going with Russell Wilson this week, only 51% owned. Look, his stats don't exactly light the world up. I mean, he had 22 attempts, he had 134 yards throw it and 1 touchdown, but he did rush 11 times for 34 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that's like him back in Seattle. That's when we knew Russ was good and things were good. He just had over 16 fantasy points. Again, nothing outstanding, but I do really like the matchup. We talked about it a little bit earlier against Houston. I think it's going to be end to end. I really do. I mean, CJ Stroud, what he's doing over there, like I said before, he's been lights out with them receivers. Russ has got it going. I mean, Cortland Sutton seems to be his best friend. I mean, he's running on the ground. He looks like he's old Russ. Kind of wish we kind of had him because Gino looks trash, but that's a conversation for another day. But I think he's a great stream this week. I think it's going to be a high score and end-to-end game, and Russ will come out with 20 plus points this week.
Only took a year and a half for Russ to get back to his old form.
Figure out what's going on.
No, but I like the pick. I like the shout on Russell Wilson. I mean, he's been producing lately, and that's what you want for a quarterback, especially this late into the season. You want players that are producing, not giving you that risk reward. You want someone that can be consistent. And if Wilson can stay that consistency where Cortland Sutton or whoever the player is that he's looking at, then I think it's a good shout for Wilson. I like it a lot.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, this was a guy we were talking about who in most leagues was always being rostered, like even in one quarterback leagues when he was with Seattle, and like over the last, like you said, year and a half, he's just dropped off completely. But now it's time, I think, to get back on board.
He's only 50.9% owned.
That's it, exactly. So I mean, time to get back on board. He's doing well for fantasy, and it's coming into the business end of our fantasy season. He could be a sneaky league winner come the end of the season.
Another sneaky winner that I love is Mr. Jordan Love. I mean, he has been doing great this past 2 weeks. Seems like Katy Perry's been really helping him stay hot. Currently the QB9, 26.6 points against Detroit. And I mean, he just lit up Detroit, and it was great. It was great to see. He threw no interceptions. He also rushed 3 attempts for 39 yards. 18 plus points in the last 3 weeks for him. Not only that, he's been a top 10 quarterback in the last 2 of those weeks. But if you really look at his stats throughout the whole season, obviously Keith and I, we talked about him last week, and we've said he's hot and cold, and that's why I brought the Katy Perry little thing here. But top 12 quarterback in 7 of the 11 games that he's played this year. And one of them, he finished as QB 16, and he scored 20.34 points, and that was back in week 2. So he has done phenomenal this season. If you really look into the stats on a top 12 quarterback, and he goes against Kansas City next week. It looks like they might be playing down, but I really am nervous about Kansas City because I feel like they don't look like a powerful team in recent weeks. And I think Jordan Love has a chance to upset Kansas City.
He's definitely on his hot streak. I'll give you that. Like we weren't expecting that performance out of the Packers and probably Jordan Love on Thanksgiving against the Lions. But like everything he did was correct. All his passes looked really good. All the play calls looked really good. He's definitely finding his own. I mean, it's just consistency, keeping it up. I know you were saying he's top 12, but I mean, if you watch him on the weeks where he's cold, he looks like a shadow of himself. He does not look good. He looks like a guy who was a backup for a number of years. This matchup is tricky because the Chiefs' defense is probably the better side of the ball right now, which we haven't said for a while. They're very sluggish and missing wide receivers on the offense. But I don't see any reason why he can't shoot for upside if he plays like he did against the Lions and he's rushing and like no interceptions will be the big thing. I don't see why he can't get 16, 18 plus fantasy points and have a nice fantasy day. I mean, all he's got to do is just, like I said, be consistent.
Yeah. I mean, he had a span of, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, not including his bye week in that span, where he just scored like 15 points or lower. And it just wasn't a good run. And that's what really made literally like everyone throw him into the waivers again, because if you have that consistency, like 3 straight weeks, not scoring points, efficient points that a team wants, you're going to get dumped into the waivers. And now he's in the waivers and now he's starting to get back up because he's 51.9% owned. So both Russell Wilson and Jordan Love, they're right around that 50% owned mark. And I think we can safely say that both these quarterbacks are going to start going up in the waivers after this week.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. The thing with Jordan Love is that he started off so hot early on that when he had his cold weeks, you really, really noticed it. And that's what happened. He was starting to get dumped into the waivers again. So, yeah, just the consistency there. But I don't mind the pick. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the Chiefs will go out and burn the Packers. I think Jordan Love's going to make a game of this and keep them in it.
Yeah, and I mean, you really look at the waiver options that are available in the waivers this week. There's not that many players that really have been being efficient. I mean, you got Baker in the mix that I threw in there, but he's also battled that injury throughout the game. He managed to come back. You had a shout on Stafford last week, ends up paying off 24 points. Yep. He's a good one into the waiver, especially with Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, Kyron Williams back in the mix. So it looks like that this team is finding a rhythm, and the Rams Matthew Stafford could see a lot of improvement in fantasy. And then you got Minshew Magic that's always in there, and Jake Browning. Jake Browning, I think the only reason why he's a possible stream option is the fact that he's got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins if he comes back, and then Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, and he's definitely probably like a deep league shout. You know, if you need someone in a super flex or 2 quarterback league, it's like, 12, 14 league, he's definitely worth probably rostering in that type of league. Stafford's a weird one because I called him last week, but Puka Nacua sucked. Cooper Kupp sucked. Tyler Higbee got 2 touchdowns. I mean, like he got the 2 touchdowns, and then you had Williams doing it all on the ground, but Stafford still comes out with a nice day. So it was kind of an odd day fantasy wise. I mean, Tutu had to shout as well, but the 2 main guys being Kupp and Nacua, who you'd expect to go off when you see Stafford thrown for what I think 4 touchdowns or whatever. They have, I think those 4 touchdowns again. Maybe he had 2 to Higbee anyways, but you'd expect Nacua and Kupp to be in there, and they weren't. But he still had a good fantasy day. I still think he'd be out of the ones I'm looking at there with you. He'd be the one I stream. The next one I'd say is Baker, because I like what's going on between Baker and Mike Evans. Yeah, they've got it going on there. That connection is just working out so well. I think it's at 9 touchdowns and 850 yards or something. Mike Evans has. He's gone from their 1,000-yard season, and he'll get it. Gardner Minshew is just so like, we said it with Love, hot and cold. I mean, he's crazy. Sometimes he's like going out there and he's like throwing his head in front of like crazy linebackers and doing a lot of Fitzmagic stuff. And other weeks he's just terrible. So it just depends what you want with him. But I'd go Matthew Stafford with the others and then Baker.
Clearly, Katy Perry found Minshew magic.
Yeah, I mean, it's working. It's working for Jordan Love. So Minshew is going. I'll take a bit of this hot and cold as well.
Yeah, but those are some of our alternate quarterback options. Let's go into our running backs. I'll start with my guy, and I personally really wanted to go with Keaton Mitchell this week, but obviously he's on a bye week. There's some really good teams that are on bye weeks this week. You got the Ravens, you got the Bills, you got the Bears, the Raiders, the Vikings, and the Giants. So it's a lot of teams that have a lot of big name players for your fantasy teams. So you got to really look at the waivers this week. And then after that, there's only 2 more teams on a bye. It's the Cardinals, Commanders, whoop-de-doo. This is really the biggest week of them all. But I'll start with my guy, and that's A.J. Dillon. Go get A.J. Dillon, because here's the thing. If Aaron Jones has to miss time again, A.J. Dillon's going to be that guy. He's going to be that main guy in the backfield. 11.1 points. He's 68.2% owned right now. 14 for 43 yards. 3 receptions, 38 yards as well in the air. Back-to-back weeks with 10-plus points. He's been a low-end RB2 in many games this season. He's a top 24 running back in the last 2 weeks. If Aaron Jones is out, you got to start Dillon. And it's hard to come by these running backs this season. So if Dillon is that main starter, Dillon needs to be started.
Yeah, what I liked about Dillon last week against the Detroit is that he was being used like he was Aaron Jones. He was getting work in the passing game, and he looked a hell of a lot better than what he had at the start of the season. I mean, I thought it looked trash, to be honest, at the start of the season. I don't know what he did. Maybe he tried to bulk up or something, but he looked slow and terrible. But finally, we're starting to see what he can do. So, like you said, with all the players on the bye, if he's out there, he's definitely valuable, because the running back waiver wire is not a nice place to be right now. But what I would say about Mitchell, I liked your shout on Mitchell, but obviously, the Ravens being on a bye, if you've got a spot on your roster that you can just go and get someone, I mean, go get him and just leave him there for the week, and then you'll have him, after the bye. So I think that's worth shouting out. Yeah,
and listen, here's the thing. If you have 2 kickers, 2 defenses, or even 2 tight ends on your fantasy team, and why do you have that? If there's no more bye weeks for your teams, there's no reason to have two defenses or 2 kickers or 2 tight ends. Just keep one. That's all you need. That's all you need. Why have 3 defenses on your roster?
Maybe someone really likes defensive scoring. I don't know.
They're not even scoring anything good.
Yeah, I know.
Why? I mean, it's brutal out here sometimes. In some leagues that I'm seeing, I'm like, why you have 3 defenses? You're wasting roster spots.
Exactly.
Go get someone that's on the waivers that has a potential. A.J. Dillon's there. Go get A.J. Dillon. Tutu Atwell's there. Go get Tutu Atwell. Or if you need a quarterback, Mr. Love, Mr. Wilson. Hello. Yeah, exactly. Anyways, go with your guy. That's my little rant. Go with your guy on your running back, because I'm intrigued on your running back that you're about to shout.
So mine is Jeff Wilson Jr. for the Miami Dolphins. I mean, he's been banged up most of the season. He's been on IR. He's back. He rushed 11 times last week, 56 yards, 3 targets, caught them all for 17 yards. I mean, he had an okay fantasy day, just over 10 fantasy points. The big thing is whatever his name is, Achan. If he's back, he will.
Whatever
Achan, whatever he's calling himself these days. The big thing, if he comes back, he will affect Wilson, but they do like to put in Wilson. So I don't know whether they're going to give Achan a whole lot of the ball, because he has this lingering knee issue. And I mean, we know what knees are like. He takes one bad tackle and he could be gone. So I think Jeff Wilson, especially this week, especially in Superflex 12, 14 leagues, it's rough on the running back waiver wire. So I think he's worth the roster spot, and I hope Achan doesn't come back and dominate, but I don't think he will. I think they'll be cautious with him, and you'll see a lot of Mostert and Wilson.
Yeah, scoring 10.3 points this past week, Jeff Wilson. He had 11 attempts and he had 56 yards. He was efficient on the ground, about 5 yards per carry. He also caught 3 catches in the air for 17 yards. The problem with Achan is that was the biggest problem coming into the draft, and whether or not he was going to get drafted, and he got drafted. And now the question was, he's such a small running back. Small running backs don't succeed very well in the NFL. 5'9", 188 pounds. That was the biggest thing. Can he be durable? We already know he can. He's really good. He's a really good running back. But now the question is he durable enough to stay healthy? And that's been his biggest issue this season. He hasn't been able to stay durable. And I think that's going to cost him his career. I mean, and it's unfortunate to say because he's a good running back. Maybe he'll bulk up in the offseason, but he needs to figure out a way to stay healthy if he wants to be fantasy relevant and if he wants to be NFL relevant, because running backs, they drop like flies. Tomorrow today you'll have a job, tomorrow you won't. So if A-Chain is going to have problems, they could cut him. I mean, you see all these cuts that are happening. Marcus Peters just got released, and he's a good player. Like, I mean, it's just these NFL GMs are brutal these days.
They are. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, it's the lifespan of a running back is like, can only be, depending on what age you come into the league in, it could just be 4 or 5 years, depending on what you do. So you need to make the most of it. And if you're getting banged up when you just come into the league, it's not a good sign. So yeah, we'll see what happens this week. I just like Jeff Wilson. I like the upside. They seem to like him there, like especially that he's been banged up all year and they still bring him into the fold. So I'm just looking at him as like a deeper league type of ad this week, especially with all the bye weeks. And he's playing the Commanders, who are very friendly and like to give up lots of points on the ground. So I think if it's Mostert and Wilson, I think there'll be enough points to go around, and he could have another same 10-point day. And all he was missing was a touchdown. If he falls into the end zone, it's going to be a great day.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with you, because the running back game has been, it's been a 1-2 punch in Miami with or without A-Chain. So, and if A-Chain has to miss time, Wilson's going to be, he's the next man up. And you know Mostert's already going to score a lot. So, AJ Dillon, Jeff Wilson, our two guys. Let's look at some alternate running back options. Talk about a little bit about Chuba. I mean, 20.2 points for Mr. Chuba Hubbard. It just goes to show that the Panthers don't know what the heck they're doing as a general manager over there. Frank Wright is out of the picture, being back-to-back seasons being fired as a head coach. That's how you know you're really bad at your job. And, I mean, you paid Miles Sanders, like, he's guaranteed at least $6 million, I think, this year. And he's been irrelevant in the running game. Chuba's been the guy there. So that was my little shout on Chuba. Keaton Mitchell, obviously, he's got the bye week this week, so it's more, if you have room, go get him. Samaje Perine, that's because of Javonte Williams. I mean, it's been kind of all over the place between those two backs. And then Royce Freeman, obviously, had a good day, 13.7 points, even with Kyron Williams being back. It looks like he's the RB2 right now in that depth chart for the Rams. So I think these are some interesting running backs you can go stream for this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be dicey over Chuba just because there's going to be so many changes this week. I mean, Frank Reich is gone, Josh McCown's gone. They got rid of the running back.
Josh McCown's gone? You mean the player that they said was going to be help Bryce Young go all the way?
Yeah, of course, yeah. But the man that was going to do it all, yeah, he's gone too. They cleaned house. So I don't know. They, like you said, they're paying decent money for Miles Sanders, and I think they have to pay him next year regardless. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back into the fold there. So I'd be just cautious with that. Keaton Mitchell, we already talked about. Samaje Perine's an interesting one because he's doing a lot of work in the passing game, which is like inflating his numbers a lot. So maybe he can keep that up and against the Texans this week. And then Royce Freeman, I don't know about this. I think in tougher matches where it's going to be closer, you'll just see Kyron Williams and maybe Royce Freeman mixed in around the goal line. You hope he gets into the end zone. So I wouldn't be too bullish on him. But the rest, I'm cautious on Chuba because I just don't know what this offense is going to be like. Keaton Mitchell I like. And who else is there? Ryan. He's fine. He's going to get work during the passing game. So he's probably a decent start if you need a running back this week.
Yeah. I mean, we know Miles Sanders, he's been running miles, but he's been running miles on sand and not grass.
You said it.
Anyways, let's go into our wide receivers for week 13 waivers. Keith, you mentioned him last week. People didn't listen to you. Are they going to listen to you this week?
Who knows? But we'll find out. So It's Jaden Reed. We're like Packers happy on this show, actually. I just realized.
Yeah.
Just Jordan Love, AJ Dillon, now Jaden Reed. Yeah, Jaden Reed, I mean, 8 targets, 4 receptions, 34 yards, touchdown, rushed twice for 16 yards. I mean, third good game in a row. He's very relevant. I mean, Jordan Love likes him. But if you look at this game, a lot of the receivers, we've seen the revival of Christian Watson. I might as well throw that in there. He finally came to the table and had a good game. But Jaden Reed, 15 fantasy points. I mean, on the button, nice game again. He's only 55% roster. There's a lot of them out there. I think with the bye weeks and, we're getting deeper and deeper into playoffs, he could be a sneaky high upside play that could get you over the line. I really like what I'm seeing the last few weeks. I like how they're using him. It's very Tank Dell-ish. You know what I mean? He can rush as well as, make the big plays. So, yeah, I think it's all about Jordan Love just playing well and being consistent. I think Jaden Reed's going to keep this form up. I really like him. I definitely think he's one to go and get.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jaden Reed a lot. He did well this past week again. I would be shocked if he's under 70% because it looks like Jordan Love really found a rhythm with Reed. But he's also been finding a rhythm with Watson and Romeo Doubs. So if Love can just stay connected with between these 3 receivers, the Packers have a good hope. And Jordan Love and all these players that we're mentioning in Green Bay have a lot of potential. We'll just see if these people can read the board that I'm about to put up in Jaden Reed to go pick up because he is the guy for the Green Bay Packers, along with Romeo Doubs and along with Christian Watson, which I thought about putting Christian Watson as my waiver wire out of the week for wide receivers, but didn't want to double up on Green Bay. But he's also another good shout, as you already mentioned.
Yeah.
So, but I will light the torch for Mr. Dortch. Mr. Greg Dortch, go get him. I mean, 9 targets. He only caught 3 of them this past week. There was a lot of potential for him to score a lot of fantasy points this week. 3 receptions, 27 yards, and a score that saved his day. 11.7 points. He's only 7.5% owned. Here's the thing. 10 plus points in the last 2 weeks. He's had 17 targets those last 2 weeks. If Mike Wilson continues to stay out, light the torch on Mr. Greg Dortch because Dortch and Murray have a connection right there. And it looks like Dortch is finding some rhythm with Murray, and that's what you want. He's getting all those targets. That's what you want to see if you're a fantasy manager. You want to see those targets for these wide receivers. And I like Greg Dortch, and he is available in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, I mean, this is one where it goes back to the connection between Murray and Greg Dortch. I mean, we've seen that last year that they lit it up for a while. He went cold in the end of the year in fantasy, but for the start to the middle of the year, he was red hot with Murray. This past week, Murray looked terrible, and that's why you have all them targets.
He scored 20 points in fantasy.
Yes, but I'm talking about just in general, he looked terrible.
Yeah, he didn't look that good. He didn't look that good.
That's why he had 9 targets and only 3 receptions. I mean, that's the issue there. I mean, that's just a bad week. Let's just put on a bad week for Murray. Obviously, the fancy numbers still are nice, but just as overall play, just a bad week. But yeah, I think this is, for me, this would be more a deep play with plenty of upside. So I don't mind it. But I definitely be looking at them only in deeper leagues, just because I think you'll find more players out there on the waiver wire that have more potential and maybe give you more solid points. But yeah, I don't mind the pick at all.
Yeah, I like. I mean, Jaden Reed, he's what, almost 50%, just over 54% owned, and then so he's a 50-50 shot that he's going to be available in your league, and if not, Greg Dortch is another guy. But there's also a lot of other players that have a lot of potential. And there's some players that I put up here that didn't really do a whole lot this week, but are some big names that are still up there in the waivers. And I'll start with Josh Downs. I mean, only 9.3 points. Michael Pittman had a good week. Downs is still a really good guy in Indianapolis. He just didn't have a high-scoring week. So under 70% owned, he's a guy to look out for. Christian Watson, again, hot and cold. It's the Katy Perry effect. We don't know what's going to happen with Watson. Kind of stream him. Tutu Atwell I threw out there because he had double-digit points. But the thing is Puka going to get hurt? Cooper Kupp going to get hurt? It's those two players that have battled injury here and there this season so far. And then Jahan Dotson, we know Dotson. He's been your guy all year. I mean, he's been throwing up numbers. So,
yeah, the ones I like here, obviously Watson stands out, but this again, it must be a hot and cold thing. It must be just the whole Packers thing. There's a lack of consistency there. You just can't trust them. Josh Downs, a player I really like, and it looked like he had a great connection with Minshew, but had a few down weeks. But there is rumors he's playing banged up as well, so that's probably not helping. Tutu Atwell, I like Tutu Atwell. I think he's a great deep ball threat. And Jahan Dotson, it was a guy I was high coming into, but hasn't really lived up to it. I think he's had a couple of big games. Obviously, fine this week. If you played him in a flex or something, you put up kind of them type of numbers. But I was thinking he'd be more wide receiver 2 numbers. I just like the value over kind of Terry McLaurin, but it's kind of the way that offense has gone. So, I mean, Watson stands out, but it's whether you're willing to trust him or not. I know I'm not.
I'm willing to start Jaden Reed over Christian Watson.
Yeah, I'm all over that one as well. I'd start Dobbs just purely because I think you'd get a touchdown quicker with Dobbs over Watson.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. Those some alternate wide receiver options. Let's go into our last waiver wire position, the tight end position.
Don't make
some
me
good
do
ones
this.
out there.
No,
but
there's not.
There's a couple.
5 targets, 4 receptions, 8 fancy points. The reason why I picked him when I was going through them, he's got a really
on this.
Well, he's got a really good matchup against the Colts. I mean, the Colts don't stop anything down the middle, and I think this is going to help this week. But it also could mean to DeAndre Hopkins having a big week too. There was not a lot I really like, to be honest, on the waiver wires. I think you have the best one, which I was going with your guy until you picked them. So I think you have the standout tight end this week. Yeah, I like Chigakonko coming into this. I thought he was going to be better. Obviously, then we had the quarterback change and things have gone differently there at the Titans. But yeah, I'm going with, matchup based this week and hoping if he repeats that kind of same stat line and gets a touchdown, well then fine. Everything's good.
Yeah, and of course you have a lot of players a lot of those big name players that are going to be on the bye week this week. You got Isaiah Likely for the Ravens, you got Kincaid, you got Cole Kmet, you got whoever is the Raiders and Michael Meyer, TJ Hawkinson, and then the Giants and Darren Waller. Is he still even relevant?
Bellinger or whatever it's out there now.
Bellinger, yeah. So, if you need to start with the matchups, Okonkwo definitely has a good matchup. So that's the only thing I can't knock you for. But Okonkwo, I like that we finally shouted him out this year.
This is like your Puka Nakua segment. Do you want to say Okonkwo?
Yeah. I like saying Okonkwo. It's just the weirdest name ever I've ever heard. Well, maybe Puka Nakua, but we do like Nakua. Lynn Bowden too. We even shouted Lynn Bowden. What an old time sake name.
What a show this has been.
What a show. Let's let the youth go loose. You fire Matt Canada. He's back in Canada. I actually don't know where he is, but probably not Canada, but he's probably trying to find a job, but he doesn't. He was terrible. He was absolutely terrible. Maybe he's going to visit you. I don't know, Keith. Maybe he's going to say that you need an offensive coordinator job. Who knows? No,
I'll take it.
Yeah, right. Freiermuth looked really, really good this past week. He was the tight end. He's currently the tight end 1 of the week before tonight's games. 11 targets, 9 receptions for 120 yards, no touchdown, and he scored you 21 points. That's what you like to see. Those touchdowns are just pluses, bonuses for your team, for your players. If they don't score a touchdown and they get you these high points, that's what you like to look at. But the first time the offense did good, Kenny Pickett looked really good. I saw a meme out there that it was you fire Matt Canada and he turns into Tom Brady. It was just it was just a funny meme that I've been seeing around. But yeah, Kenny Pickett looked really good. And Freiermuth, he was lighting it up. And I think Freiermuth could be a league winner for tight ends if he stays to this potential.
Yeah, he got banged up and he was on IR and now he comes back and Yeah, he's a big lift for a lot of teams with playoff hopes. So I don't have a whole lot to add. He was my number one pick. I really like him. I mean, he was a guy last year. I think you had a lot of times, but he should be a guy really that you just plug in and play, and he's not on the waivers. That's how it should really be with him. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the usage from now on should go up, or should at least stay what we've seen the past week. Um, yeah, I don't have a whole ton to add. So yeah, I would go with you. Pat Fryermuth should be the number one tight end, to be honest.
Yeah, Conquo, Fryermuth. Fryermuth, obviously the top guy. Conquo, good player to also look out for. Some other names, Tyler Higbee. I mean, you mentioned him already. He had the 2 touchdowns, so his score really got inflated because of those touchdowns. Isaiah Likely, 8 points in his first start after Mark Andrews' injury this year. Not what you want to see for fantasy managers that went out and picked him up and probably spent all your fab on him. But give it a chance. He's obviously on a bye week this week, so a good stream option for the following week. Kate Otten, Gerald Everett, some other guys. Kate Otten's just kind of been lingering in that alternate tight end options all year.
All year, yeah. I was just about to say that.
Yeah,
It's
so
kind of what he does.
Yeah, pretty much. He's that guy that if you really need a tight end, I mean, I think realistically, Kate Otten's been one of the most consistent tight ends this year because he's always up there.
He has been. He's been the chain mover for the Bucs. I mean, he's when Baker needs a safety blanket to just get him them couple of yards or them few yards, he does, and he generally ends up getting more. He's not bad, after the catch. It's just he doesn't find the end zone. That's the thing. It's either Mike Evans or Rashad White runs it in, or that way it just doesn't find the end zone. But yeah, I don't think he's ever given you like a really bad week. He's just been solid in the middle, which can't really complain about. It's just a whole lot of people just won't have him rostered.
Yeah, exactly. Only 34.5%. Any other names that kind of stand out to you? Not really for tight ends, for personally.
Here, Gerald Everett knows how to find the end zone. He just gets injured a lot, and he did this week as well. He knows he has an eye for getting a touchdown, which helps. Tyler Higbee always seems to do well against the Cards or whatever. So like I'm not all over those 19 points because he could have 5 this week, and it's probably like that. Likely, I don't think Likely was ever going to blow up on the first game back. I think we seen his potential last season. I think obviously on a bye, so you don't need to rush and get him, but I think he could be okay going forward. I think he'll get better as the weeks go on. I've already spoken about Kate Otten, and he's just kind of Mr. Consistent, but just never finds the end zone.
I think personally, it's safe to say that there is a likely chance that he's going to be fantasy relevant towards the end of the season after his bye week for Mr. Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, I agree with that. Of course, it was puns. You're puntastic. That's what you do.
Fantastic. Anyways, those are our tight end options. Let's go into one of the worst segments for me this year: Monday Night Football predictions. I lost again.
And I won again.
You won again. Kansas City lost because of Marquez Valdez dropping.
That was awful. He has more drops than actual catches. I was reading some stuff like that. When it's a deep ball in his career, he's got more drops than actual catches. It's crazy.
I saw a highlight reel. It was the funniest thing ever. I saw a highlight reel, and it was them posting a highlight reel on all of Marquez Valdez-Scantling's drops. It was the funniest thing ever. It was so sad because I was like, oh my God, he's dropping so many deep balls.
But that's how he ended up out of Green Bay, because the potential was there. He was a good speedster, but Aaron Rodgers, after too many drops, Aaron Rodgers just stopped throwing the ball to him. So, I mean,
I think you and I pitch in together, and we buy him gloves that have butter on
it. something just a stick.
I mean, Butterfingers, man. I mean, he just can't hold on to the ball. It's just sad, and he cost me another loss in Monday Night Football.
Yep, he did. That's a shame.
A shame indeed. I'm 4 games back again. It's not good. It's not good. I'm almost in double digits before. It's brutal. It's brutal out here. Brutal. But Chicago, Minnesota. It's the battle of the NFC North. Keith, who do you have winning tonight's game?
I have the Vikings winning
No.
21-17. That's what I got.
21-17. Wow.
Yeah.
Very close.
Are you going to go against me to try and get one up?
I would love to. I would very much love to.
You're
But
running
I'm
out of
not going to
games.
go against Dobbs.
You're
I
running
am
out of
running
games.
out of games. and here's the thing. I'm going to say it again. Watch. The Bears are going to win this week, and we're going to talk about it next week how I should have picked the Bears. Just like how we talked about the Broncos a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I'm going to go with the Vikings. Another really close game. 23-21, though, is the final score for me. We both have a very low-scoring game. I mean, it's going to be one of those games. It's going to be back and forth until the very end, and it's going to come down to whether or not it's a kick or whether or not it's a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be the best game. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we're wrong. I hope it's high score and it's entertaining, but I just don't see it coming. I hope Dobbs looks better than the last day out, and starts running the ball and doing all the things we liked when he was with Arizona. And Fields could have a good game. Fields seems to be pretty good with DJ Moore and get them there, but I just don't think they'll have enough. I think the Vikings have stepped up. Their defense looks better. They're just overall a better team. So I think they will just narrowly win.
Yeah. I'm going to be curious to see if the Bears are going to upset me again.
Because if they do, I'll be on the phone to you right away going, oh, well, you messed that one up.
Yep. Another one that you could have got a win, but you didn't.
Yep.
Oh, so sad. But anyways, that's going to do it here in this week's episode. If you haven't done so already, go to trophysmack.com/sportstimeHQ. Go get yourself a trophy, ring, or a belt. They also got some cool Wall Smack metal art for your walls if you want to go check that out as well. Again, trophysmack.com/sportstimeHQ. And then, of course, Underdog Fantasy, you got to always go there and you got to use code SportsTimeHQ because you know what? They're going to match first deposit up to $100. I did a couple bets on Thanksgiving and hey, I got out and I won some money. But of course, Justin Fields, Keith, higher or lower than 55.5 rushing yards. I'm curious to see if you're going to take the over on Justin Fields.
Ooh.
Justin Fields, of course, rushing attempts or rushing yards. He's gotten over 55.5 in 3 games this season.
I'll say no. I'll take the under.
I'm going to take the over on this one. I think it's going to be another close one. Last time he faced Minnesota, he only had 46 rushing yards. I think it's going to be over. I think they're going to have to find a way to get the ground game running, and I think they're going to go with Fields running the ball a lot. I think they're going to have a lot of QB draws too. Ty Chandler. Let's talk about Ty Chandler. I mean, I like Ty Chandler a lot. I think you do too. Yeah.
Yep.
Ty Chandler, higher or lower than 32.5 rushing yards.
That seems low. I'm definitely over.
Yeah, I'm smashing the higher on that. Just like that, you can go bet $5 on there. You can win $15 on those 2 players if you can smash those 2. Once again, go to Sports Time HQ. Use code Sports Time HQ on Underdog Fantasy. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. But that's going to do it again. Go follow my co-host Keith. You can follow him all over social media at SwampDonkey_90. And go follow him on Instagram at HuddleUp_NFL. I'm Fernando. I'm your host of Sports Time HQ.